Alrighty, well, we are all set up at the new location. We've got the very basics of the shop mods done. We still have a lot to do to this place, but for now we've got it workable, and it's time to dive back into the projects. We're diving back into the K-Swap Cefiro build. If you're unfamiliar with this car, it's a Nissan Cefiro. It's a 4-door right-hand drive Nissan, basically S13 suspension underneath. So the goal is to build essentially the ultimate street drift car. So keeping all the street car functionalities, make this thing really nice to drive, but really fun to drift, low and cool looking and all of that. It doesn't need to necessarily perform well, it just needs to be fun to drive and comfortable on the street. I mean, we're gonna try to keep cruise control, make cruise control work, AC, all that stuff. So kind of an elaborate project, really fun project. So as you can see, the engine's not in the car. The engine is in here. So that is what we were working on today. I had Kyle from the Booster Boys over the other day. He got to check out the project, so that was really neat. K-Series brethren now, I guess. Yeah, K-Series guru, K-Series person.
Sweet once you get it up and going.
You had to come check out the K-Swap project. Long requested. We're not necessarily a good stage for him to check it out, but he got to see the cylinder head, which is in there, you know. Gave it the nod of approval.
I was telling Taylor, once he gets this thing, you know, stuffed in there, get her closer to being ready to fire up, hit us up, we'll be down. I think you'll like it a lot though.
Yeah, I'm excited. It should be rowdy. Yeah, it'll be really cool to have him over when we're getting ready to start this thing, you know, because he's super familiar with these engines. So I'm excited for that, but for now, we're on our own. We got a lot of work to do. We got to get the engine assembled. We've got the short block, we've got the head's back from the machine shop, new valve springs, all that good stuff. We've already got the engine converted to rear-wheel drive, so we've got our K20 Type S oil pump, our pickup tube for our front sump pan, our windage tray, everything. Basically, at this point, unless I forgot something, all we need to do is put the engine together, which should be pretty straightforward. Let's dive in. This workbench is one of many that came with the shop, and it'll be a good engine building workbench, so we can do it all right here. Time to unwrap the old girl. All right, we got our parts for later over here, suspension stuff over there, and then we have everything ready to go on the engine. So we have the cylinder head, which if you guys didn't see the video where we got this back from the machine shop, new valves, dual valve springs, titanium retainers, steel seats, valve seals, valve job, like solid unit. Solid unit. This thing should be ready to rev as high as our heart desires. We got the cams. We did put a 50-degree VTEC cam gear on. We got the VTEC valve body deal, cam caps, chain guides. Got a new chain tensioner, ARP head studs, all our hardware, crank trigger wheel, like everything. We have everything we need to put this engine back together. Oh, and the head gasket. That's pretty important. But yeah, so it's time to do it. Let's get to work. Do one last clean of the head surface. If there's anything I'm picky about when it comes to putting engines together, it's gasket surfaces. Whether it's an important one like a head gasket, oil pan gasket, anything. That is my nitpicky thing. Alright, that's about as good as it's gonna get. Just making sure that basically all of them are equal. I'm not tightening them, I'm just barely, very lightly snugging them down to the bottom. All right, head studs, head gasket, we're ready to rip. It's time to throw the head on. We'll give it a quick brake clean. There we go. Now the main purpose of this stuff is for the washer itself. So the washer doesn't bind and cause an inaccurate torque reading, but I like to put a little on the threads. I don't know, just my thing. Another tip when you're putting bolts in like this, or nuts rather, I always take them on my finger and like thread them on my finger a little bit, and then of course it doesn't work out that time. Got it. All right, time to torque her down. head is on, officially torque to spec. It's time to put the valve train back together. Alright, cool. These dowels are extremely tight. I had to pry this thing off. Alrighty, assembly lube time. Boom, alright. So we've still got the engine at top dead center. There's a hole back here and a hole here so you can pin the cam at top dead center. So to get me a rough idea of where it needs to go, just kind of roughly lining it up with that hole. But it's just going to kind of also go where it wants to go. These silver bolts go in the center because this is stained, this is stained. So clearly these two work together. It's just kind of nice to try to put things back together where they went. I don't know, some people will find it silly, some people will be like, duh, but one of those things. I like to try to put bolts back where they went, at least in the general vicinity. So enough jibber jabbering. Let's get this tightened down. I mean, we're cruising right along. All right, we got them all snugged up. Did it in a sequence just because they're going to be having tension pushing back on them from the valve springs in different spots, so you don't want to just like tighten here and then blah. So we're good there. We can start torquing. All right, gonna work on getting this gasket surface clean. This is what I hate about things that are RTV'd. One of the reasons I love LS's is it's all metal and O-ring gaskets. There's only 4 little tiny spots you RTV. Otherwise, every time you take it apart, you gotta go through and clean it all. What's next is timing chain tensioner, timing chain guides, then timing cover, and so on and so forth. So we have a brand new OEM chain, and then just slam the rest of it together. Moment of truth. Everything looks good. So basically we have these marks on the chain. So we need to center the dot in between those. Then these marks here need to be pointing towards each other. Then this arrow down here needs to be pointing at the other arrow. And then this other marked chain link needs to match up with this line here. And there's a dot under there. That's just so you have the slack right from one side to the other. You can see this is like a much straighter shot than here. So this might be a link or so longer. So that just makes sure everything is good. So there's a million references. Be kind of hard to screw it up, I think. But hey, crazier things have happened. So anyway, now that that's done, double check, make sure we're good, and then we can start putting the timing cover on, valve cover on. We can do the oil pan. We can really get this thing fully buttoned up, which is very exciting. It's gonna be so nice to see this engine not in pieces anymore. Oh, one of those things. That's always a nice moment. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. Let's get back to work, boys. Spin this over and just make sure that it comes back into time. All right, everything looks good. Put this Johnny back on. So used to the LS crank pulleys that you have to press on and press off. This is it's a nice change of pace, I must say. I'm gonna torque that to spec when we can lock up the rear essentially, but for now I just want to tighten it in case I do forget. Waiting on this RTV, the Sonderbond, to tack up a little bit more before I go ahead and actually tighten down all of these timing cover bolts. And then we'll be good to go. Man, I like this little workbench. I think I'm gonna clean it up, paint it, and throw some casters on it and have it as a rolling workbench in here. Anyway, off topic. on topic. Rest of the parts to go on the engine. So we have our right-hand drive turbo manifold, V-band, beautiful piece from TF Works. We got our TF Works oil pan. This is all TF Works stuff, pretty much. Water in and outlets. So for the back of the head for the water pump, we got gaskets. We got our beautiful billet TF Works engine mounts. Our Borg-Warner EFR 7163 turbo with the V-band housing. Associated hardware, turbo speed sensor, and then obviously the valve cover and coil pack. So I do need to adjust the valve lash on this engine, but for now I'm going to go ahead and just get the valve cover on so I can start moving on to the other stuff. I don't have to worry about stuff falling down in there. I did also buy some spark plugs for this thing, and I have no idea where they are. I don't know what I did with them. A mystery to solve another day. Let's get this valve cover on. For whatever reason, I love the way these valve covers look. They're just so appealing. I'm gonna put these coil packs in to kind of protect things. Don't have to worry about stuff falling down in the cylinder. I guess I gotta go get some more spark plugs apparently. I don't know where mine are. Oh, look at that, dude. Ah, man, it feels good to see this thing as an engine again. All right, what's next? What should we do next? I guess we go ahead and toss on the coolant stuff. We'll spin this thing around. First thing we gotta do is pull these studs out. Oh, not bad at all. Dude, Knipex Cobras, I know I talk about them all the freaking time. I am not sponsored by them. They're just amazing. Like literally pulling a stud out with them. These things are so good. I link a lot of the tools that I use in the description. So like these pliers, a die grinder, all that stuff's usually somewhere in the description. I don't remember everything, but a lot of it's in there. The reason for this is because this engine's normally in a front-wheel drive car, so there's miles over here, whereas in a rear-wheel drive car, there is not miles over here. Probably gonna have to delete this too. Man, that looks so good on there. We've got this elbow here, and we need to basically figure out which way we want to orient it. This is for the heater outlet, heater hose. We need to go look at the car and see which way which side it is on the car. I don't remember. It's getting rainy here in Florida. I think we had a tropical storm coming through. All right, let's see right there. So if we can, we want to point it this way. Shorter run straight to the heater outlets. Cool. And the only difficulty is this is here. So we either got to go up and shoot it over or down and shoot it under, which is maybe doable. All right, moving on. That's cool though, because we can clock this any way we want. Probably end up having to fiddle with all this stuff once the engine's in the car and we know kind of where everything's going. But for now, we have a general idea. One thing I've learned, never leave a bolt untightened. I've done it before. I'm like, I'm gonna come back to this before I put this other cover on, and then I forget. Never leave it untightened. We'll tighten that down too. Look at that. Here, TF Works makes some really solid swap parts. All right, time for the crown jewel of the long block. It's time to put our beautiful swap pan on. I've already cleaned off all the old RTV off the pan gasket surface here, so we're good there. We've got our K20 Type S oil pump with essentially our rear wheel drive pickup tube and all that stuff's done, our baffle. We're good to go. Last thing to do is put the pan on. Yay, more RTV. Honda Bond. All right, let's see if our old tube of Honda Bond has any life left in it to get this gasket done. So one thing that I really dislike about factory RTV'd pan gaskets, really any gaskets, is they're very unforgiving. If you make a mistake, if you need to take it back off real quick to do something, anything like that, you're kind of SOL. So I was in that situation just now. I set the pan on here, perfectly RTV'd, everything was good, and I realized there's these two studs that are too short to use with the new pan. The pan flange is too thick. So I took it back off real quick. I got this one out, no problem. That one came out cake. This one, not so much. It basically turned into just a knurled metal dowel. There's no threads left on that thing. The old Knipex Cobras couldn't do the job. So I had to quickly try to wipe off all the Honda Bond, but it was almost too late at that point. So anyway, turned into a whole ordeal to get everything cleaned back off as quick as I could, and then we'll have to redo it. But anyway, that's just the thing I dislike. Whereas if this was a normal gasket, it wouldn't be a big deal. Take it off, do what you gotta do, put it back on. Anyway, I gotta weld a nut onto this guy because it's not coming out. Come on! Felt like it was going that time. Well, I tried. I really did, but the thing's not coming out. It is not coming out. We got several of them here. So yeah, we're just gonna have to run without this bolt and hope for the best. I mean, I've definitely done that before and it's not the end of the world, so we'll let it ride. If it is a major problem, we'll address it then. But for now, there's no reason to keep wasting time on it. Well, maybe it's not a problem at all. So let's get this pan on for good this time. All right, pan is officially on, hopefully for good. So there is one potential problem area. They build in this notch to the pan for the steering rack. However, we moved our steering rack forward, so I'm hoping that we didn't move it too far forward to fit in this notched area. If we did, we will have to pull it back out and we'll have to cut it and basically just bring the notch further forward, which we can do that. But hopefully we don't have to. Only one way to find out. Maybe we don't have to take it back off. We'll find out. So anyway, flip this Johnny back over. This motor is so not centered, top heavy. All right, next up, engine mounts. Look at these. This is just another one of those pieces. Freaking beautiful. All right, we just got to do the same on the other side. All right, for the pièce de résistance. It's going to be a satisfying moment. Boom. Turbo time. Ooh, that is pretty. We need to loosen this, caulk our housing here. Probably something like that. Snug her up. Whoo, whoo. Oh man, that looks good. Man, the feeling of taking a bunch of parts, scattered all across the shop, and turning them into one big part never gets old. It never gets old. Man, this thing just looks so good put together. With all the TF stuff, the manifold, the turbo, like everything just looks, it looks so good together. It's so cool to see it all as one complete unit and not a bunch of separate pieces. So I am so stoked to have this thing back together, man. There are a couple little things we still need as far as the engine goes. We do need an intake manifold. I'm waiting to see if Toge Factory's billet intake manifold comes out in time. If not, there are other options we can use, but I'm holding off because I want the billet one, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so the engine is ready to go in the car. Before we put the clutch on and the trans on, which we do have the BMW ZF 6-speed trans, we tracked down a 6-speed, which is good. So we do have that. But before we put that on and put it in the car, I want to test fit it as just an engine and see if we're going to have any issues with the pan clearing with our move forward steering rack. Because if we are, we're obviously going to have to take the pan off and modify it to clear our steering rack. So I want to check that first before we go wild putting everything else on. But all in all, super successful. Everything went together well. We didn't lose anything in the move from one shop to another with a completely taken apart engine. I mean, that's a victory in and of itself. So I am super happy to have this thing together. I can't wait to see it in the car. Oh, it's gonna look so good. So I guess that's gonna end it for this video. I hope to see you guys for the next one, but for now, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, goodbye. Just look at it. Just one last look at it. Just one last look. Just look at it. Just look at it one last time before you go. Just look at it one last time. All right, you good?